According to credit insurer Coface South Africa, the upheaval in world economic markets, high interest rates, slowing economic growth and rising food prices are all contributing to businesses facing increased debtor defaults. They say companies need to especially be careful in giving credit or extending credit terms. Credit managers must do thorough credit checks and be especially careful before giving credit to overseas companies. Now joining us in the studio to tell us more is Mr. Garth Klerk, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Coface South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Rendezvous Africa, sir. Now, what is it that business should know in terms of credit?
Business needs to go back to the drawing board in terms of credit. I think in the past we've seen some very positive years of growth, and we've been able to become a little bit more aggressive in growing our credit book. We now need to go back to the basic principles. If you're looking at a company, you have to take a look at what the balance sheet is, what the viability of the business is, how well they're established in the market. In the past 4 or 5 years in a really booming economy, we've been able to do more than just our core business lines. So we need to take a look at the actual company, the balance sheet, how well versed they are in the industries, etc. Don't get too creative when looking at credit.
But now, when you look at the African continent generally, what is the state of credit?
That's a very good question. It depends on the zone within the continent. You know, there are certain zones that are booming economically, but they've got foreign exchange issues. There are other zones, you've been talking about Swaziland before, fantastic opportunities in Swaziland, now there's political unrest. You took a look at a while ago at Kenya, we had a lot of dealings in Kenya, and suddenly again political instability. So, you know, different regions within Africa have different challenges, and it changes every day. And that's what we're seeing at the moment in the European and the US markets as well. You can wake up in the morning, totally different.
And something is totally different. But when you look at a profile that companies should be looking out for, what would be the warning signs or the flashlights to say this is what you look out for when looking at credit for somebody or for a company?
Data extensions. The minute your policyholder starts seeing their major corporates starting to request extended terms, you have to take a look at why they're requesting those extended terms. Is it cash flow problems? Are they looking to extend their business lines? Are they looking to enter into new markets? You can't just accept the fact that somebody is now going to take longer to pay you. If there's a good reason behind it and they are looking to take on new ventures within the region, fantastic. But if they're purely asking for extensions because of cash flow issues, take a serious look at it.
But now when you look at people who come in looking for debt, how easily accessible is the information on those people specifically? Is it easy to just go somewhere, go on some computer, type in a name or name of a company, and something comes up and you have a full profile of the person?
I would love to say it's easy, it's not. You have to be dealing with the right networks within the continent. One of our biggest challenges in Africa is information which is reliable and up to date. We have been relatively successful in the continent in developing networks that can both provide information which is more reliable. I wouldn't say it's always up to date in Africa, but it's more reliable. And then we've also been able to back it up with other trade solutions, which means that, you know, should you actually start running into problems with your buyers, we can also take a look at how we can help you mitigate the loss, collect the debt, etc. But up-to-date information is a huge challenge in Africa.
Credit trends that we see now, how far has this been running? Is it something that has been happening for a long time that we just have not seen? Or is it because of what we're seeing in terms of the economic upheavals that is happening now?
I don't think it's something that's happened for a long time. You know, at the end of 2007, we were looking at a very positive environment, both in South Africa and in the continent. I think that what happened was that in those periods, we had overextended ourselves. And with the cost of capital increasing so rapidly, we started seeing ventures now starting to run out of funding. And that's got big roll-on effects. You know, we tend to like to think in South Africa we are resilient and we're not always that affected by overseas markets. We are. We're very affected by overseas markets. And I think that roll-on effect has to be measured in Africa as well.
Now, when you look at South Africa seems to be most affected by what is happening, for example, in the US now. But does it stand for the rest of the continent? I
think it has to. You can't assume that the rest of the African continent won't be affected by what's going on. If South Africa is affected, that will have a roll-on effect rather into the continent.
Interest rates, high interest rates, we're talking high rising food prices, all affecting businesses. In terms of credit, how does that directly affect business?
It's the cost of credit. You know, gearing these days has become very, very costly. And as I said, in 2007, we were in a growing market. Then we sort of woke up in January 2008 and we found that it wasn't actually as rosy as we thought September, October 2007. You found companies that extended further credit, that extended credit to their buyers to go off and go into ventures in the continent as well, as well as in South Africa. And they had extended their gearing. Now guys are sitting with interest bills that they actually cannot afford in their normal routine business. So they're now starting to pull back on lines. They've pulled out of ventures in the continent because they can't afford those ventures anymore. You were looking at bridging finance almost. Now businesses are having to pull back, consolidate, and you know that's the key word of the day at the moment in the world economy is consolidate, stick to your knitting.
Is this where credit insurance comes in then?
Correct.
Tell us more about
it's not only credit insurance, it's really a trade solutions provision. Credit insurance is one aspect of what we can do for clients and one aspect of what they should look at in the business. That's insuring it should something go wrong. Up front, you need to have information. You need to know what's going on in the zone, in the region. And we take a dual-pronged look at it. We don't only talk about what is happening with the buyer. We take a look at what's happening in the zone. We take a look at the political situation, the economical situation, and then we also have a look at creditor protection and the validity of information within the zone. So there's a lot of different aspects you have to look at information. Then the insurance kicks in. So we will vet the buyer for you, we'll take a look at it, we'll set a limit for you, and we'll give you an indication as to viability of that business going forward. Should it then still go wrong, we will also be able to, through our receivables management, assist you in actually mitigating that loss. And whether you're dealing with a trade solutions provider like Coface or any other trade solutions provider, those are the steps that you need to go through. Be well educated going into the deal, be protected while you're in the deal, and then be prepared to deal with it if it goes wrong.
Can you expect credit trends to get any better?
We hope so. Certainly in South Africa, we're looking at a positive 2009. Whether that's a bit of an illusion, I would like to believe it's going to get better in 2009. 2008 has been a tough year, but it hasn't been a disaster. There are still opportunities in our market to make money. There's always a positive trend in South Africa. We're a very resilient bunch. And I think the African continent shares that resilience. We've always gone through a level of turmoil and we always come out of it. So 2009 is going to be good.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us there, Mr. Garth, Klerk, CEO of Coface South Africa. Thank you for your time.